Welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is part 2 of remaking my little book of watercolours. So I'm using two different ones. I'm using this original one, which is for a present for somebody. This is a 24 pocket photo album for £1.50 from Paper Chase. And where you would slide the photograph, this is where we're putting our pages. So all the pages are in here, we're just waiting for our colours. And so these are colours on sketchbook paper. So I think I'm going to do some squares, but what I'll show first is how this book is put together. I'll show you how to destroy it. So this book is exactly the same as this one. It's just I broke the spine and I've put a lot more in it than the 24 photographs that it has, the 24 pages. So when we look at mine, we want the first original one. I may not find it because I've stuck all sorts of things to it. So the first page is here. Right, so if we take this one off here and slide that, have I actually stuck it? I think I've actually stuck it, but I'll take it out. So if I slide that out there, that's the first page. It's just cheap photocopy paper, but the actual paint is on a sketchbook. It's on a postcard watercolour one. It's the only one. So if you want to put your colours on, and the first video shows you how to do that, you want a watercolour postcard for the first page. So this is technically what this one looks like here. So when we but I put double-sided sticky tape on that. When you turn it over, I've got my peerless in here. So when we take that, turn that over, I can slide out the next page. And I've put extra ones in, but I'll show you that later. And I've even got another one in there. Looks like I've stuck those together. So if I pull those out, they should come out. So mine is stuffed into that one there, and it's also in that one as well. So I actually put 2 pages in there, and I've got extra ones in between. So that's my hydrus. So basically, and I did put this sticky tape on there. So basically, that's one pocket and that's another pocket, just like that pocket and that pocket. So let me have a look. And all of them are kind of just, I did put a little bit of double-sided sticky tape to keep them in. You can take them out, and here is another section. So I don't really want to take them all out just at the moment because I do use this, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get it finished right. So you see it's a bit thinner now. So the next thing is we've got the pages. So we've got our photocopy paper has made all our pages. And I'm going to keep this one quite thin. because I want it to stay nice because it's a present for someone. If you can just do that with the back, just let it go flat so it's nice and easy to use. The idea is you flip it and you use the colours. So the first page has been done. I'm not sure about, I might leave the first 2 pages, we'll see. I think so. So this now is photocopy paper, but it's a bit ugly, so it now needs some sketchbook paper. So when you put in your colours, apart from the first one, which is the watercolour, you do not use watercolour paper because the colour will seep in and we want it to sit on top. So just like the Caran d'Ache colour 2s, they are sitting on top of that watercolour that sketchbook paper, and that's the Derwent watercolours and the ink tints, and these are Graphitone watercolour pencils. Anything that's water based, good quality. So we need some quite good quality sketchbook paper, but not too expensive. This one is the Cassart one, and normally I like the Sea White Extra Wet Strength. You don't want really expensive stuff, but the really cheap stuff might disintegrate. So if you get Extra Wet Strength, that means it's a sketchbook, but you can do a light wash on it. That kind of paper will be brilliant. So this particular one, I think it was £3.50 for I think three or four of these sketchbooks. So I'm going to take the black card away. I've taken the 2 staples out. I might use that later. So this has left me some sheets. Now when I've done that, they've technically turned into A4, which is printer paper. So from each page here, now you can do this 2 ways. I'm just going to, because this has been in a sketchbook on the outside, it's lost its crease. So we want nice creases. So now we've got a nice crisp edge. So you can do this 2 ways depending on what you want. Let's have a look at a square. So this one, I originally did them on separate ones because I thought they would disintegrate. So each square has got 2 colours, because I thought, well, if I used one up, I can just throw this away and replace it instead of wasting all the page. But I found that actually this Extra Wet Strength water sketchbook paper works quite well, and it doesn't disintegrate. You know, this is the first prototype and it's still going strong. So you can make squares on your paper and colour the squares in instead of cutting out lots and lots of individual ones. So this one is one complete thing cut into 6, and then I have a strip at either side, and I found it easier to have it for measuring, because I just like things easy, to have the strip in the middle where I have one name for the top, one for the bottom. The first one's the top, the second one's the bottom, first one's the top, the second one's the bottom. And then the 2 strips on the outside were watercolour strips. So I took a little bit of a brush, I got some colour, and I just kind of went from dark to light. So I have a colour swatch, but it also tells me that I can get 10 shades at least out of every square. So even though I've got 72 Derwent watercolour squares, I've got 720 colours from light to dark, because every square gives me at least 10, there may even be 20, but at least 10, and that's not including mixing, that's just adding more water or less water. So you've got to decide. I think these squares, these were the biggest. I think these are going to last me the longest. And the best thing is that when you do get to a section that's been used, you just find that colour, find that number, and scratch over that little bit, and you've revamped it. So it's never ever going to take you as long as the first initial make. They do need 3 coats, so you want to scratch across with the pencil, turn the square round, scratch across, and again. It's normally 3 layers, 3 light layers. If you start making dust and bits, you've got too much. That's it, because the paper only takes a certain amount, but the colour does sit on top, and that's what we want. But because different photo albums, which is what we're using, have different connotation, different orientations. So this one is actually putting the photograph in the top. So I've cut right round, and that's given me, this was the original, so you would put a photograph in there, you would turn it over, and you would put a photograph in there. So I've cut round this, not very well, it's not easy, I have to say, but it has given me 2 pages. So my colours will go on this one, and it will also go on this one. So as long as I have plastic, colour, colour, plastic. Now I actually have plastic on both sides. So I could, and I will do, be putting a page in the middle. And then I will be adding the colour on that side and the colour on that side. So that will give me colour, plastic, colour, plastic. And then I will cut the other one open again. So that means that my little photo album here will actually hold twice as many, because it's going to be quite fat. But it won't be too fat, because remember, the manufacturers has made this so you can get a photograph in one side and a photograph in the other. So we're only adding a little bit. So in theory, apart from if we don't overstuff it, it should be fine. This one has a page in each one, and there's still lots of room in there. So by the time we fill every page with some sketchbook colour, it's going to be fat. And then you want a nice fancy bobble. A hair bobble is perfect. So whatever your favourite colour is, I mean, you could have a flower on it, or you could have a little plastic bead on it, or anything you want. But this is the easiest and the prettiest. Rubber bands work, but erase. But this is quite pretty. Just a plain hair bubble. And if you have 2, you always have 2 hair bubbles in for your hair if you have long hair. So it doubles up. So that's going to look quite neat. But I want to use this one. This is for me, and this is for a present. And this is the one that you can buy from Paper Chase. They're £1.50. But if you can't, you can always adapt. Adopt. I'm getting like Hilda Baker. So you can always adapt an old photo album. The idea is you want some nice strong corners to protect all your colour. This is the second prototype, and I really did stuff it full, but I did want to find out that would be, you've got to make one with whatever you find.